Okay, hello, my beautiful star beams. It's so glad to have you here today, or I'm so glad to have you here today. What we're doing is a spiritual coaching session, and so this is where I come on and answer your questions about spiritual awakening or your spiritual journey, spiritual gifts, things of that nature. If you resonate with my teachings and you like my vibe and want to work with me, I would love to work with you too. You can go check the description box here below for all the different ways that we can do that, or if you're live, I have links in my bio up there. So I already have one question that came in from Layla. I'm not sure if you're still in here, but how often do you do shadow work as a coach? So shadow work, and that's a great question. Shadow work is something that I do every single day. Every day. It's an implementation into my life. Now, to what degree do I do that? It depends on what I'm working on. But because I am constantly talking to clients and making content and watching all of my content back, like I'm going to watch this live back, I'm always being extremely self-aware and trying to evolve and grow as much as I can, because I also want to stay out ahead of the clientele that I'm working with. And it is also fundamentally important, if you are an energy healer or a coach, that you are continuing to work on yourself. Also because the collective shifts a lot as well, and what they're currently growing through. And so as healers and coaches, we often want, like I said, to stay out in front of what other people are going through. And you become a much better healer and teacher and guide when you are doing your own work, right? So every day it's something, but you also have to kind of teeter the line to make sure that you're not digging at things that don't need to be digged at. And that's a lesson that I had to learn along my journey of, just because my clients are going through something or the collective is going through something, doesn't mean that stuff is mine. Sometimes empaths and light workers have a tendency to take on double the amount of shadow work that they need to, because you're so self-aware. And you say, okay, well, if these people are going through that, then that must mean I am too, because they're mirror reflections, when that's not always the case. And sometimes that's taught in spirituality of, and it's true, we pull in what we're a resonant frequency match for, but that's where it gets tricky sometimes, because if you have clients or you're a collective healer, you're coming across a lot of people that are doing healing, but sometimes it's a growth comparison chart for you instead. Especially if you're doing that professionally. It's, look how far you've come from these places and spaces that you were in your life, and now you're much more wise and have more tools and resources that you can help other people. But that doesn't mean that you actively need to heal those things within yourself. So you got to make sure that you're not pulling down your own frequency or how far you've gone on your journey, because you're helping other people with those things. It's kind of like, let's say that you're working on finances and helping people with manifesting. What ends up happening sometimes is you'll have a lot of clients or teachings where you're helping people get out of those kind of like pits that they're in, but sometimes you can actually find yourself in the own pit, because you are keeping yourself in the vibration and frequency of what you're helping other people with. That's why it's really important to also grow and evolve your collectives and your communities over time, so that way you don't go backwards. Makes sense? Like, the things that I help people with now are very different from the things that I help people with in the past, and it's no judgment to me or them. It's you got to move in chapters as your community and collective move too. But sometimes there's like a lot of shame and guilt. There must be a lot of energy healers in here right now. Put your hand up if you're an energy healer, because this is a very much energy healer chat. Yes, okay. We have some in here. So there's oftentimes shame and guilt with letting certain community collectives go, because we want a mama bird and say, oh, you know, who's gonna help the children? not the children, not like children, but like, who's gonna help the babies? But the thing is, you have, as an energy healer coach, have probably helped so many people that are going to help those people. You're just further into your teaching chapters of your life, and all the people that you have already taught are going to be the ones that go help them. Okay, so there will always be people to help. So if you've been feeling kind of that shame and guilt of, oh, I really want to switch gears in what I'm doing, but I don't want to leave all these people behind. They're not going to get left behind. So there's plenty of light workers out there, and you were the person to probably help those light workers become said person. So give yourself a pat on the back. But sometimes those big chickens gotta be kicked out the nest, okay? To help the little eggs that are coming. Spillover for sure, real deal. Helping people helps yourself. Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the reasons that I got into energy healing and coaching, is because I had so much trauma from when I was younger. And originally I got into it to help myself, but then I realized in giving sessions and coaching and things of that nature that I was actually accelerating my healing journey, because I was pulling in people that have such a similar experience as me. And so the wild thing is let's say that I'm talking to somebody and we have very similar journeys. Because I am not them, I can objectively look at what's going on in their life and see how things are correlated and why things happen the way that they do and what they can do to create forward movement. So I'm getting that mirrored back to me. It's almost me advising self, and I'm hearing those things over and over and over again and bettering my practices, not only with other people and self. So it really does help you shift monumentally, helping other people. And that's why a lot of people, even if you don't do it professionally, a lot of empaths and light workers really enjoy helping other people on their journey, because it really does mirror back to you and help you on yours, even if it's not even the same thing. It teaches you how to be the observer of your life. Okay. Yes. Yeah. If anybody else has questions too, you can feel free to ask them. This is an open forum. So if you have questions about spirituality, being an empath, light worker, spiritual gifts, you can feel free to put them in the comments. Any advice for getting first paid clients? Sure. Have you given any sessions to anybody? Like a free session? When I first started, I'll wait till you answer, because that might shift the way I answer that question. Like, have you already done it for friends and family members? Help friends, yes. Okay, so we have some experience there. So when I first started doing Akashic record readings, I found a group of light workers, like on Facebook, and these were kind of accelerated light workers as well. And I've been doing it for free for years. I'd like to get paid now. So I would ask yourself, like, what is the fear behind getting paid clients? Or what is the impediment there? Because it might seem like that is 3D tangible things that are catching you up, but it's probably something energetically that needs to be shifted, of saying, and I'm not exactly sure like what your dynamics are, but it could be a couple different things. When I helping energy healers start their businesses, sometimes it's, I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know, or they feel icky about asking people to pay them. Oh, thank you for the follow, Amy. There could be a million different things, but most often it's an energetic shift that needs to be made, whether it's self-concept or confidence. The records you do? Yes, I am a Akashic record reader. That's actually the first type of sessions I started giving to people. So what I did was I found a group of light workers on Facebook, and I started offering free sessions, and those were different than family and friends. I did not do anything with my family and friends really, because they're not on the same wavelength and they didn't understand those esoteric concepts and things of that nature. I also had like a very deep fear of persecution and people finding out like, oh, you're a cuckoo witch or whatever. Right? There's definitely a material hang up, parental financial abuse, but I'm trying to change it. Yeah, so I'll share what I did. So I go into this Facebook group, and these are people that are already very in their spiritual awakening journey. They already have a lot of information about Reiki and light language. They've been in it for a minute. And so I went into that group and I started offering free sessions. I said, hey, I'm really trying to build my skill set and pick up new tools and resources. Would anybody mind doing this in return for a testimonial or a review, or just telling me, feedback? because that's also important when you're doing things. You need feedback from people so you can barometer how you're doing with it. But sometimes people are feeling guilty for asking people to give you testimonials or reviews. People love doing that. From somebody who has been doing this for a long time, they are very appreciative of what you do and helping them heal, and they love doing it. Do not be afraid to ask. So I did a ton of free sessions, and it was different doing them for light workers and empaths who are already on their spiritual awakening journey, instead of just friends and family, because they could give me very direct feedback of, hey, this was in resonance, this is not, you know. It was just more of a dynamic session. And so once I started giving away a ton of them and everybody was posting testimonials and reviews about me in the group, they would say, hey, my name was Brittany at that time, but hey, Brittany is great at this, and this is what she helped me with. And I started building a reputation within that group, and then I felt confident enough within myself to start charging for it. And I didn't charge a lot compared to what I charge now. It was very minimal, but that's because I also had like weird icky dynamics with asking people to pay me for things, especially with spiritual gifts. And so that's a lesson that I had to work through. But I started in that Facebook group. And then once I did that, I said, okay, well, I need to expand my reach because there's only so many people in this group that I can get in contact with. And so I had to start making content, social media content, because that was a huge, huge fear of mine. That time of my life was a lot to work through because my confidence and self-esteem, my self-concept. I also didn't know how to make content or how to market or how to do social media. So I had to figure out the business end aspects of those things as well. Also how to sell, how to pitch myself. That's another skill set that you have to learn as a business entrepreneur. And so there's lots of different facets that go into having a spiritual business, spiritual practice. But I definitely recommend, if anybody's in here listening and you want to do that, is to find a group like that. So that way you can have really good feedback of, hey, this is how my journey is going. Like, find some other empaths and light workers to practice on. I'm going to read these comments back here. That's what I'm going through now, the practice on friends, getting amazing feedback. That's great. I love that. You should share the feedback, like make content and say, because I'll make content like that. Every time I do a reading or a session, I never talk about specific things with people's sessions, because that is privacy. Especially when you're talking about Akashic records or talking about healing people with their inner children and things. What I do is I take general concepts. I say, like, this is the conceptual thing that we worked on and some tools and resources, and I explain how we got to those conclusions and the results that they got, but I don't talk in like very specifics unless that person says it's okay. And I don't share like who that person is. But after every session, I will get on and make a video and say, I just did an Akashic record reading with somebody, or I did a coaching session with somebody, or in my mentorship program when we do our one-on-ones, and I'll say, this is what we worked on, and this is how they healed, and this is how they're moving forward. So you can take that feedback that you're getting and create your branding with it. And it's also showing social proof of, hey, I know what I'm doing, and I'm showing you exactly step-by-step processes that I do know. And you also get a really good feeling of how, or people can get a good feeling of how you work with your energy healing practices, because everybody's so different from one another. I just made, and I know y'all are leaving comments, I'm about to read I paused them for a second. I just made a video about what an Akashic record reading looks like. And I was explaining that every single Akashic record reader is going to be different. Every Reiki practitioner is going to be different, light language practitioner, coach, because we're all looking through our own perceptual lenses with our experiences. And so what you do in your practice and business is going to look very different from others. But that's a beautiful thing, because you have a collective of people who have soul contracted to work with you. in the way that you do things. That's why we get caught up in these like comparison games sometimes and saying, well, oh, this energy healer is doing this and this coach is doing this, but only you have lived your experience. And there are certain people out in the collective that need you to do it how you do it in order to help them grow, because y'all have similar energetics as one another. So you'll see in a lot of my videos, I will thoroughly explain my processes on things, and people are like, wow, I really like how you break this down, because I want you to understand what it's going to be like if we work with one another. Because I don't work with everybody on everything. There's been a lot of times that I tell people no, or I don't do that, or how about you go see this other energy healer friend of mine, or our way of processing trauma doesn't match up, and that's okay. But the clearer that you can be about your processes and the way you do things and why you do things, it helps you get in alignment more with your soul tribe and also your soul clients. Ooh, my higher self is all about the energetic exchange. It is true that more often than not, when I think or have synchronized signs from my spirit in many forms, is it true that most of the times I'm connecting to him, connecting to my paw? Are you talking about your grandfather? Heather? Oh, thank y'all for the follow. That's what Source keeps pushing me for, saying I'm needed for my unique purpose. That helped me. Oh, Heather, yes. I mean, if you intuitively know deep down in your soul that it's your grandfather that you're connecting with, I would ask yourself, like, why do you think it's not? Because sometimes we have these like irrational fears, or it's our way that we see and view ourselves that make us undercut what our capabilities are. And so just intuitively picking up from you, yeah, doubting self. Right, because the way that you're phrasing that leads me to believe that you know it's him, but it's this undercurrent of not believing in your abilities, and that's what's tripping up the connection even maybe sometimes. Like maybe he's trying to talk to you actually more than he is right now, but it's kind of like the doubt that's running down in there. See, the type that needs like a roadmap, and I've tried so many things to do a purpose that didn't. Oh, are you saying that you're the type of person that needs a roadmap? Are you talking about with like your spiritual gifts or your psychic gifts? Yeah, there's no, that's the thing about spirituality, is there's not really like a roadmap. That's why I am a little trepidatious about teaching people about the records, because it's such a personal experience and it looks so different for so many different people. I can give you a framework and teach you how I learned and give you the basics, but I can only give you the basics and the framework. And then a lot of that is going to have to be you going in within yourself and figuring out how to do different accesses to different frequencies and dimensions. Because it's so different. Like the way that I read Akashic Records is very different from other readers, because I don't have clairvoyance. I don't see any images. I feel all the images. So I'm really good at frequency reading, but I don't see pictures in the same way. I know it's vague, but surrendering to intuition and knowing what's made for you is yours. Yeah, and that's what I was going to say about spirituality. There's no specific framework for anything. Everybody who has gifts, talents, and skills within the ethers and the cosmos, they all do things in their very own unique way. So it's not a cookie cutter situation where you can really always follow somebody else's framework exactly, because some things might work for you and some things might not. It's the same thing that I tell people that are wanting to become spiritual coaches, because this is a trap that I got in for a long time, is I would watch life coaches and try and mimic their frameworks that they have with clients. And I was playing like this comparison game, and my business, there was weird energetics under it, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong. And I realized, because I'm not supposed to be doing it like that. There's pieces of it that really resonate with me and were really good, but because of energy healing and working with different dimensional spaces and frequencies and timelines and the records and chakras and all this stuff, you can't really utilize the same frameworks as a coach, as a life coach. So you have to be open to trusting self and letting your intuition and your higher self and your guides help you and lead the way. And also understanding that when you are working with a client, you're also working with that person's higher self, and you can kind of lean on them a little bit as well to help you through the session if you're newer to giving sessions. And I still do that. I still talk to the other person's higher self because they know them better than anybody. As someone with aphantasia, I'm not sure how to use the records. Oh, great. Okay, we can talk about that because same. Also, something that my guides made sure to tell me is to stop saying you have aphantasia, because that can actually block up images. Because maybe you don't see images right now, but if we say we have aphantasia, then we're speaking that over our energy field, and then you will not see images at all. Same thing with me. Like, I'm trying to stop saying I don't have clairvoyance, even though I said that a minute ago. I'm really trying to stop saying that, because there are times where I do see images. It's just very different from what other people do. So for me, not being able to see images made me an extremely good frequency reader, because you have to feel things instead of see things. And so when I'm doing sessions with people, I can feel whether you have perfectionism wounds, imposter syndrome, whether you have fear of success or failure, or fear of persecution, whether you had like an overbearing dad, whether you had religious trauma. I can feel all those things in your body instead of actually seeing them. So it makes it easier for me to see the web within people and how things are correlated and why they're correlated. And then what ends up happening is you start reading so many people and start seeing the same frequency within everybody. Like, oh, I can see that this person's neurodivergent before they even tell me, because I've seen it in so many different people. And so then you start to build a like Rolodex or an encyclopedia of frequencies, and you can just pick up on them with people immediately. Like when I'm doing sessions with people, I'm like, well, you got this, and this, and this. And they're like, how did you know that? I'm like, because I can feel it in your field. So that aphantasia thing, that used to really cut at my self-worth, because a lot of healers and teachers are clairvoyant, but if you don't have that, it makes you feel less than. But in all reality, you're just stronger as a frequency reader sometimes, and that's your beautiful gift. Right? Everybody has their own unique way of doing things, but people that don't see images like that often make really good Akashic record readers, because you're good at frequency reading. Because you can take it even further deep into that, is when I'm doing records, I can feel all the different inner children within you and which ones are correlated to which trauma wounds and energetic cords. And I can also perceive further back and do that with timelines, like different incarnations. I can feel through your records and find the version of you that went through whatever karmic lesson and pull them forward so that y'all can talk to one another, or pull your inner child forward so y'all can talk to one another. So don't let something that you quote unquote don't have trip you up from doing the thing that you want to do. You just need to do it differently. And I've been really trying to talk on that more, because there's a lot of people that are wanting to get into the Akashic records, but they don't have clairvoyance, and they're letting that trip them up. And I understand that, because that was me too. And it's like, well, how am I going to be proficient at this if I can't see? I just see differently, right? And that might be y'all too. So you might have or you might hear, like, clairaudience wasn't one of my gifts to begin with, and I trained myself how to be very proficient at clairaudience. And even now with the images, after I stopped saying I was aphantasia. Aphantasia, for those of y'all that are listening right now that don't know what that is, aphantasia is you don't see mental images at all. It's just a blank screen. Nothing up there. Okay. So after I stopped saying that I have aphantasia, that's when I started seeing images start to peek through. Every now and again, I would start to see things. Or I could actually astral project within myself. And instead of just being able to see the things, I was actually able to see them in my mind's eye. But saying I have aphantasia was blocking me from some of that stuff. I can see and feel vibrations like the chakras and the brightness and what's pulling on what. Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's a type of frequency reading. That's great. Or, you know, if you can see, that's great too. What's your standpoint on ETs? I think we're all aliens. I think everybody is an alien. I think everybody has lived in very different dimensional places and spaces. And we're all playing this like human game situation right now. But like everybody in here in this live right now, if I were to step into your field, I'd be like, well, you spent time here and here and here and here and here. So technically that makes you an alien. So I don't think that there's any like separateness. I think that we are playing a human constructual game right now, and we look all very similar to one another because of this hologram skin situation. but you might look very different on a different timeline. That's a great question. Let me go back up here. Oh, what are the Akashic Records? So the Akashic Records are a vibrational record of all of your thoughts, feelings, and emotions and actions across all space, time, and dimensions. So it's a running record of all your different incarnations, whether that's you as an alien or you as a person or you as a rock. It's your soul came into existence from source. That's your oversoul. That's the very first you. Okay. And then after that, you got split into a million different experiences, and some souls are older than others. Ultimately, you're all coming from source, but you have like a record of all of your soul fragment splits that go with you. And so Akashic Records are just an encapsulation of all of those. So once you start learning how to tap into them, you can tap into different timelines, you can tap into different higher selves that have different gifts and talents. You can learn about why you're experiencing karmic lessons over and over again, or karmic relationships. You can just do very deep soul healing. It's also known as soul fragment healing. Let's see. Sometimes I feel like I'm so close. I definitely feel like I have a big block there I want to work through. Sometimes when I am doing sessions with people, most oftentimes the spiritual blocks are coming from childhood. Because either somebody told you magic's not real, or it was demonized, or you grew up in a spiritual household, or you watched social media that made it seem scary, or that you were going to hell or something. And so your inner children sometimes will be blocking you from that stuff because they don't feel safe and secure, or they're trying to keep you safe and secure. So they kind of put this filter lens over because it's a safety trauma response. And so you have to go back in, you have to speak with your inner children and kind of unravel that trauma around them and teach them that you're the higher self and that you're going to keep them safe and you're not living in those places and spaces anymore. That's when we start getting into energetic time stamps. So I'll talk about those for a second. So when I'm doing sessions with people and we're doing inner child healing, whether it's for spiritual gifts or just trauma stuff in general, I'm not going in with you to talk to the memories. We are actually going in to meet with your inner child in that time and space. And people are very shocked when they go in for the first time because they're like, whoa, that's me, but it's not me. How am I able to talk to them? And I'm like, because there's still a living, breathing consciousness within you. All of your inner children and all your past versions. Just like your higher self can talk to you, but technically they're in the future and you're in the past right now. And so what happens is these inner children, think that trauma is happening to them right now because they're caught in a movie. There's just like a mom and dad are yelling at me, or, you know, whatever the trauma was. And what we come in and do is take that inner child and remove them from the movie and show them, actually, you're just looking at a memory and you're just stuck in a loop. And that's not currently happening. And we're actually going to move you into the new timeline with the adult version. And sometimes they don't even know you're an adult. Some do. Some are aware, and then sometimes they're like, I had no idea. And I'm like, yeah, they're actually your higher self and your guardian and your protector, and we're coming to take you out of that time and space and move you forward into the new timeline. And so that's what you have to do sometimes with these spiritual blocks, is explain to them, like, that stuff is not happening right now. Come with me so I can move you into the new life. I heard myself talking in my dreams. Interesting to hear me complain as a higher self. That's very funny. I'm sure we have different splices of higher selves too. So sometimes when we're thinking of higher self, it's just, there's a multitude of higher selves. It works on the ladder system. Just like each one of your inner children become a higher self to the younger one and help you heal backwards. There's so many different ones. So I could see where there'd be like higher selves that are like complaining about things, but then like way further down the line, they're closer to like your oversouled source, and they're like, yeah, we don't do that up here. Because they're just above like so many levels conceptually. I was never thinking about, but I had an experience and it changed things. After I can reconfigure the issues, I can go within to see inside the body. Chakras are like alarms. Oh, I love that. Chakras are alarms. Thoughts and feelings are alarms. Emotions are alarms. They're all alarms. I love that you have perceived that, because those things are not you. Even your chakras aren't you. Your chakras are, like, your chakras in all different timelines are different chakra systems. So you have a chakra system in this incarnation, but that doesn't mean it's the same as the other timelines. So that's very tied to this incarnation. Right? So something that another timeline might be experiencing, you may not, and vice versa, and y'all can help each other like grow and heal, because you do have different systems. And sometimes they are very similar. That's what karmic rollover lessons are. How many dimensions do you think we are in? I couldn't really tell you, because there's so many different dimensional spaces that I'm sure there's a gajillion that I have not accessed before. But do you mean dimensions in the sense of like 3D, 4D, 5D, that kind of thing? Or do you mean dimensions like the angel realm and the fairy realm and the dragon realm and those type of dimensional things, which are kind of the similar but a little bit different? Everything Everywhere All at Once. Yeah, that movie was really good. I was really happy to see that come down in the collective. Kind of, these things are coming from the Akasha field to help the collective grow, much like TikTok. I am 1,000% sure that TikTok is part of the collective evolution growth expansion, and it was channeled down from the Akasha field, because it helps so many light workers and empaths get in contact with one another, and also help us see like major injustices going around the world, and to help people understand that some of our experiences are universal global experiences, so you don't feel so isolated, and also a way for people to band together to help topple down some of these things. And so like movies like that are also like The Matrix, Everything All at Once. There's a million different things. I was even talking about that yesterday, about how dragons are coming back in a big way into the collective, because you can see that in media with like Raya and How to Train Your Dragons and things like that. It's all interconnected with one another. Oh, thank you for the follow, Jocelyn. Oop. What is your best advice for someone who is trying to access their records? Where do you start? So there's this book. Let me pull it up on my tablet so you can see it. Hold on. Okay, so when I first got interested in it, and a lot of Akashic Record readers, I will say too, that if you're being pulled to do that type of work, you're probably already reading people's records and you're just not consciously aware of it. Because if you're an Akashic Record reader, that means that you've been a healer for a long time in different incarnations. You just forgot because you're doing this human game right now. But to be able to tap into Akashic Records, you have to do a massive amount of trauma healing and shadow work and self-awareness, because it is an extremely high frequency and you have to be able to blip up into higher consciousness very easily, or teach yourself how to do that. And so you're probably more of an accelerated, I don't say that as like a level above or below. It's just somebody that's very like dedicated and very diligent at healing themselves and healing other people and wanting to make shifts in the collective. And so I want to say that first, because when I read this book that I'm about to show you, it unlocked something in me, and I said, oh wow, I've already been doing this with people. I was not consciously aware. And then once that key kind of unlocked and I really started doubling down and learning how to read on a more, what's the word I'm looking for? A pointed level, because it's one thing to do it unconsciously, but then when you start teaching yourself how to do it consciously, then the web like cracks open and you can access so much more within yourself and other people. So if you're being called to do that, it's probably because you've done it in other incarnations before. Okay, so that's something that I wish somebody had said to me, because a lot of times we let self-doubt and imposter syndrome as energy healers and coaches really trip us up, because we're like, oh well, I haven't been doing that long. Ooh, somebody was calling me. We haven't been really doing it that long in this incarnation. And I'm like, if you look through your Akasha field, you've probably been doing it for a really long time. And once you accept that about yourself, that's usually what helps you really kick off. Okay, so there's this book and it's called How to Read the Akashic Records by Linda Howe. And it's the orange cover. You can find it on Amazon or wherever. It's like $13. Very activating. Do I agree with all of the things that she says in the book now? Not as much, because she's very big about like prayers and rituals and doing things, which helped me in the beginning. Because having a specific ritual and a prayer teaches your subconscious mind, like, oh, we're about to flip into this frequency. It's a practice, right? Now I don't have to do that as much, and I don't really adhere to the same guidelines because I've been doing so many that I can just automatically flip into that. But I recommend this to anybody that wants to get into that. It will give you a great foundational place to start and a deeper understanding of what the records are and how to work within them. But I always like to say, you need to cultivate your own practices. You need to listen to your own compass and your own intuition and do what works for you, and work with your own higher self and figure out how to do what you want to do, how you want to do it. Okay, but so that's the first one, is get that book and read that. There's a lot of videos on YouTube that you can watch about them as well, and listening to other people talk about them in different lenses helps you see them in different ways and might give you different ways to tap in. Working with your chakras. Learning how to read your own chakras with your root to your crown chakra is going to help you be a better frequency reader. And the Akashic Records are ultimately trying to get you to see yourself in outside perspectives and help you shift gears into a higher consciousness level, so you can talk back to yourself right now, or talk back to your timelines, or talk back to your inner children. So the better that you can read yourself, the higher up you can go in your records. And chakras are a great way to do that. And so I learned as much as I possibly could about chakra healing, and then I went into Reiki healing and became a Reiki practitioner. You don't have to do that. It's just how I did it. I also learned as much as I could about subconscious mindset reprogramming and trauma healing and shadow work, because you can't access your Akashic Records if you've got a bunch of heavy, dense trauma in your body, because that stuff is very heavy within yourself. and it causes anxiety and depression and catastrophizing, and you attach to your thoughts and emotions. And the Akashic Records are helping you become an observer of those things. But it's hard to become an observer if you are attached. So the Akashic Records, like, if you want to get into that, I'm a huge proponent of that, but you also have to understand that you have to do a massive amount of work on yourself to be able to do it. And that's why I actually started becoming an Akashic Record reader for other people, because it was helping me process through my own stuff. So I was hitting it double time, because I was pulling in people that were in similar journeys as me, and so I was able to work through things at a rapid pace. And so that's a beautiful thing about becoming an energy healer and a coach, because you end up pulling people in that are similar as you, and you're practicing double time. And it also keeps you accountable, because I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh, you need to be doing this and you need to be doing that, when I'm not doing it. Like, I'm my best result. Like, if I'm not doing these things, I don't have any business telling anybody else not to, or to do them. And so that's how I got into it. And I started doing tons of sessions. I did like 60 free sessions before I even, and I'm not saying y'all need to do that. Don't do that. That was my own self-confidence thing that I needed to work through, my own self-concept, because I could have been charging people a long time before I did it. But I gave like tons and tons and tons and tons of sessions until I felt confident enough to start doing it professionally. But don't do that, because that was my own self-confident thing. I mean, still practice on people, but you don't have to do it to that extent. Okay. But again, and learning how to, and Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about this a lot, about how to regulate your brain waves. So important to tap into the records. So meditation teaches you how to do that, but I was not really great at meditating because of the neurodivergency, and too many tabs open, and it was very hard for me to sit in silence. And that's when I realized that's not what meditation is for. It's not so you can just be silent in your mind, which that's great. We love that. That's a good thing to be able to do. Meditation is more to teach you how to become the observer of your thoughts. Like, they're still going to be there, but you don't attach to them and you don't go down the thought holes. It's like, oh, I see you. Okay, I see you. And just learning how to push those out, because that's what the records are doing. When you tap into your Akashic Records, it's the whole point of it is so you can detach from what you're currently experiencing and look at it from an observant place, from your multidimensional self. So you got all these like human 3D things that are happening right now, and they're causing all this fear and anxiety. The Akashic Records are so that you can back it up over here and look at it and say, oh wow, it's not as intense as I'm making it out to be, and this is how I make forward movement. So it's teaching you how to shift up into higher levels of consciousness. So that's why it's important to work through all that heavy stuff, because if you're not processing that stuff, then you can't be the observer. Right? So that's why I'm saying that with the meditation. It's not to like rid you of your thoughts, it's to teach you how to not attach. And it's also how to teach you how to slow down your brain waves, because you have to be, most people are living in alpha and beta brain waves, very chaotic, kooky, like stressed, anxious. You have to be in theta or like delta brain waves or gamma waves to be able to get into your records. You have to be in a place where you can be very calm and centered, even though all this wacky stuff is happening out in your 3D. You have to be able to get to a place where you can be like, I can detach from all of that for this 30 minutes and just completely let all of that go, like it's not even existing, so that I can get in this higher level of self. So that's what, so all these things work in tandem with one another to allow you to do that. Yes, the prayer is in there. Somebody asked me about the Akashic Record prayer, and I was like, you don't have to have a prayer to access them. Like, the reason the prayer is there, and some of the Akashic Record readers will tell you different, and you have to use your intuition discernment with that, but I'm the type of person that will tell you, you need to do whatever you need to do what you want to do. So I utilized the prayer in the beginning because I thought I had to. And later into my journey, I realized it's not about that. It's about a ritual of doing something over and over again so that your brain flips into that frequency. But there's no prayer that is impeding you from being in there or not. But like, I always light incense and sage and Palo Santo before all of my sessions. I always build a crystal grid. I always pull people oracle cards. That's my ritual. That is me getting in my zone to do those things, but I don't have to do those things. So I just like to say that, because somebody asked me about a prayer the other day to access it, and I was like, don't let that stop you from doing that. But if that's your ritual, that's fine, that's great. But the prayer is in that book, and that's one prayer. There are many different Akashic Record prayers, because it's not about the prayer, it's about the ritual. But she has one that's very lovely, and that's the one that I used when I first started. Let's see. Cass, probably some inner child stuff. That's typically, and I'm not saying that's what it is, because we're not doing I'm not in your energy field, but I was talking about earlier how when you're a child, you're so susceptible to being told how reality works from other people and their trauma projections and what they got going on, or social media, like you're getting programmed, or like witches are evil, magic's evil, you're going to hell and all that stuff. So most oftentimes when I go in people's fields, it's inner child stuff that comes up. That might not be representative of you, but it usually is inner child stuff. So we got to go in and help them realize that magic's safe, magic's fun. It's not their responsibility to keep you safe. That's your job as the higher self and the adult. My brain definitely needs to slow down. Yeah, we got to get to a pace where we're able to disidentify from self momentarily and from all the catastrophizing and the external 3D hologram stuff in order to tap into that. And when I say disidentify, I want to be very clear. I don't mean like disassociate from self. It's just you being able to sit with self and saying, hey, all that wacky stuff is happening right now, but it doesn't matter right now. Because you have to learn how to be very present within your Akasha field in order to read your records. You have to be like very in the moment, and that catastrophizing anxiety and all that stuff sometimes blips you out of that frequency. Okay, I feel like I've accessed them subconsciously. Yeah, there's lots of people that are accessing those different parts of self without knowing consciously, and sometimes it is consciously, and like people have a lot more access to things than they give themselves credit for sometimes. Okay. Yes, in my dream it was 80 degrees in my room, so maybe I need to be warm with my anxiety. Oh, maybe like a warm hug. You know what I mean? Like a warm blanket hug. Okay, Layla, is there a difference between manifesting and quantum manifesting? Yes, there is. So manifesting in the 3D sense is very much goals and tangible action steps that you're taking, which we love that. That's great. Okay, but that also takes a really long time because you're working in the heavier, denser 3D human realm, and it does work. And that's how I have had a lot of success in my life, is because I know how to work within the 3D manifesting realm to make things happen, but that takes a lot of effort. Quantum manifesting is a little bit different. This is where you are envisioning higher self you in the life that you want to be in, and you're actually shifting up into them and embodying their energetics. And so you're learning like what their thoughts and feelings and emotions are, and then you're actually talking back to you in present and giving you that information, which is going to be very different than 3D manifesting, because 3D manifesting, you're trying to come from your own consciousness. That's why it takes a long time, because you're regurgitating the same exact action steps over and over and over again, and it's a lot more slow rolling because you only have like a small perceivability of your consciousness. Whereas if you tap into future you 5 years from now and you speak with them, they're going to give you a completely different guidebook because they can see more of your soul contract than you can see right now. They're like, actually, well, how about you just go do this and this and this, and then you can bypass a whole bunch of this stuff over here and be there a lot faster. Right? Because it's almost like, so I want you to like imagine like a mountain. You're in the mountain. There's trees all around you and creeks. You can't see the top of the mountain. Okay, but the top of the mountain, that higher self can see you. They can see all the different routes. They can see all the different people you're going to meet, all the different experiences and everything. There are different higher selves of the mountain. So each higher self can see a different level of perceivability. And so if it's just you in the woods and you're looking around trying to figure out where you're going, well, you're probably going to be lost. Or you'll get out eventually, right? But if you can connect to the higher versions of yourself, they can just give you directions. And they're like, hey, you know, don't go over there, or maybe you should do this. That's your intuition talking to you. Your intuition is future higher self you trying to lead and guide you down a more easy path. And then sometimes we listen to our intuition, and then sometimes we don't, because you have free will from where you're sitting in time and space. If that makes sense. Okay. And that was a great question. And hopefully that helped. Imagery is very great for explaining some of these like esoteric concepts. And so when I'm doing chats like this, it's funny what is pulled down for examples. Okay, everybody, I'm going to hop off now. This was a really fun chat that we had together. Is very dynamic, great questions. If you like my personality, if you like my teachings, if you want to work together one-on-one, you can see the different ways down here in the description box below. I do one-on-one sessions, and I have a mentorship program. I also have a thing called the Cosmic Community for motivated light workers, or you can go to my profile and my bio link up there if you're in here live, and all that information is there as well. Let me answer this really quick. So you can do quantum manifesting without doing pure 3D manifestation. Oh, you need both. Because you have to have both. A lot of people are only operating on 3D manifestation though. Because quantum manifestation is more showing you how to energetically shift into the new you and the new thoughts and feelings and emotions. Because you have to shift into that new identity in order to have a different life, but you still have to do the 3D manifesting things, because that's actually taking the action steps. That's you doing things in the like actual, like me, like if I was making okay, so if I want to build a program for clients, I would need to go in and talk to my higher self who's already leading that group and speak with her about, hey, what should I be doing here? But then 3D me would actually have to build the program and have to make social media posts about it and do email marketing and do those type of 3D human things, right? So it's the energetics on the quantum manifestation. 3D manifestation is bringing it into fruition in the human sense. Yes, those are the differences. So you need both, but there's a lot of people that are only operating on the 3D, and that's why it takes them a lot of time to bring things into fruition or birth things, because now you're working in dense 3D human paradigms only, which that still works, but it just takes a really long time to do that, because you're raising your consciousness at a much slower pace. Because you're basically just mirroring back success based on your external achievements. But when you're doing quantum manifestation, there's a whole different ballgame. Now we're embodying the energetics of future us that already has the things. And so you're going to make completely different choices. And things that you normally wouldn't do, because they can see more of your soul contract and where you're headed. So they have a better understanding and picture. If that makes sense. Okay. Okay, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful day. I'm going to post this on my YouTube channel. It's Soul Harmony Magic, so that will be up later today. I also have more chats like these over there as well. Oh, thank you for the rose. I appreciate you very much. And thank you all for all the great questions today. It was super fun. All right, I will see you later. Bye.